we normally do, some comments from our 2020 participants, a little review of the merchandise that we still have available, and then we'll do a little summary. So I'm going to be speeding and shooting through, so bear with me, but do ask questions in the chat. When we turn this over to Bev, I will definitely address any and all questions that you have in the chat. Alrighty, so we're going to move right along with some participation statistics. 2020, as you can only imagine, has been a year and still continues to be. We were doing so well starting in 2015 from 400 odd participants to five. We maintained five, did a wonderful year in 18 of 576, almost 600 folks. And in 2019, we trekked down a little bit. And of course, for 2020, we were at 197 participants. But that was pretty good because all of those participants were indeed online. So I think we had a pretty good online activity. Moving right along, just giving you kind of the percentages of positives, of ups and our downs. So from 540 to 197 was a 64% drop, but we understand kind of where we are and what we're dealing with. We'll get back on the horse and we'll be just fine next year. So I thought we'd talk just a little bit about the cost per person hosting as we have done in previous years. So given the amount that our expenditures for the activity, in 2015, it cost us about $30 per person to host the event, but unfortunately this year it was about 62. But understanding that our costs would be a problem in terms of people participating, we try to be mindful of that and bring our cost to participate to $3 instead of five, the normative five, hoping that would assist folks a little bit. All right. Now, participants from locations. I'm going to push on through this. We've been collecting this data every year. And so our 197, here are our participants by county geographically. So McPherson was our top participating county in terms of percentage of the 197, followed by all of the counties you see here on the right: Sheridan, Salina, Shawnee. Jewel, I think, was a new county participant, which we were glad to see a new county, and Phillips County, I believe, might have been a new participant group. So we're always glad to see new folks come into the fore here. Now, I'm also going to push through this pretty quickly. Our total votes, a couple of years ago, a number of you asked if you could see our total votes, and so we started collecting that data as well. So our votes for 2020, as you would expect, was 3,500 for 3rd through 5th and 1,436 for 6th through 8th. But I just want to say thank you all for those of you who just pushed through and made it happen. For your students. We thank you. We understand this has been a difficult time. So thank you so much for what we do have. We're very appreciative. We still have our web tool, Squarespace, because we just love the back-end analytics. And part of those analytics actually is our website traffic. So when we switched to a new website in 2018, we've kind of been following our page views. So we had about 5,900 page views in 2018. And I'm going to push through that and move through. So in 2019, those page views went to 47,000. So thank you again for switching over to our new space and utilizing the website so much. We appreciate you. So I'm going to move on to 2020. From 2019 of 47,000 views, we went to 2020 with 49,520 views. So again, thank you. We increased our page traffic. So that's great. You're still asking questions. People are still asking questions about the award. Also in 2018, we started looking at geography. So where are the page views coming from? Um, Let me go back, 2018, of course, we had 1,500 page views. Everyone started moving over to the new site. So in 2019, we had 14,000 page views. And I'm just going to quickly get through some of the countries here that are checking us out. And that's all 2019. So in 2020, we went to, and sorry, I'm having a problem saying that, 17,000 in the US and almost 18,000. And then you see some other countries that are coming to our page and looking at our materials. And I'll just very quickly kind of move through some of the other countries that you see visiting our page. Okay, when we started the new website, we moved from paper submissions of materials or requests for tickets to online submission. And that process in the first year, we got 4 online submissions. How about that? But as we move forward and you guys just picked up with everything, we had 36 submissions in 2019. And even though we had numbers that went down this year in 2020, you still utilize our online platform for requesting your tickets. So thank you for utilizing that. Now, the magic that happened in the cloud. And indeed, it was magical. We really had a great time. We started Friday night, wherein normally students would come in from all over and spend some time at Emporia's recreation space, a huge recreation building with basketball and swimming, etc. And the authors would come in and have the conversations, as you know, but we transferred that whole experience over to the fireside chat. So the fireside chat was online Friday night on October 2nd at 7 p.m. I was firesiding from my office room, my office space there, and you can see the little dusky 7 p.m. time behind me there as it was starting to get dark. And as I have lost my mouse here, sorry. We actually had Gail Becker to do her Kahoot as she normally does, and it was awesome. The kids loved it. Gail was amazing, and we also had a second game called Quick Draw Trivia, and we utilized insignificant events in the life of a cactus for that. And that game was actually created from scratch by a SLIM graduate right here on campus as a way to get into game creation. I wanted to give them an opportunity. So that was a wonderful experience for them. So thank you for letting them show their talents in that way. So after our 2 gaming sessions, we actually gave a little award, and it was West Elk Schools and Hotsy who won the gaming awards for the evening. All right, I'm going to keep moving there. You know, it was really amazing. People came in from their homes, they were excited. The kids were excited, the parents were excited. So it really was a great Friday night event. A lot of folks came in from their schools. So people kind of, for lack of a better phrase, kind of tailgated at the school. And they were truly excited and enjoyed meeting with the authors virtually and just having time to see one another, I think, see other schools and participate in the event. There's Cindy Allmiller from Hotsy. Hotsy had a school full and they were excited about being there. And we also sent a lot of very nice, quote unquote, swag out to the students in a little specialty box. And so you'll see that 2020 virtual experience little spirit cloth there that everyone received in their bag with their registration of their $3. And there's Weskin. Now, I always put Weskin in because Weskin is just so great. All of the kids and Julie there at Weskin have actually been with us consistently for 5 years in a row. I have watched these little guys grow up, and it really has been special. So, thanks, Weskin and Julie, for 5 years in a row. We appreciate you hanging in there with us year after year. So the kids had a wonderful time asking questions of Dusty Bowling. And I think Dusty really enjoyed herself. The kids asked some really intense questions, and Dusty really was open and honest with them. And I think it was a really great session because of that. Also, Gordon Corman shared some really interesting things about him as a writer and as a person that I thought the kids really appreciated as well. So the magic continued on Saturday morning, and we had our regular introduction of our authors by one of our students. So we had two students that actually did the introductions of each, and the authors gave their speeches. And at the end of it all, we had our regular surveys. And let's kind of look real quick. Adults, we had 23 surveyed, and we had one teacher, two parents, three public librarians, one student who came on their own, which I was glad to see. And most of our adults in the room were school library media specialists, which we had 16, so 70% were actual school library media specialists. So did you join the celebration from your school or from your home? So 17 joined from home and 6 groups joined from school. We had a lot of groups that were kind of tailgating at the school together for the whole weekend, which I thought was a good opportunity for folks to be together. Adult surveys, what did you enjoy most about the virtual experience? Well, I think we did a lot better this year. We had 11 people to say, hey, great job. They enjoyed themselves. And everyone is so wonderfully honest. And I love the feedback, and we listen to the feedback every year and we try to make changes. So we need more activities and more online games. I hear you. So I'm glad you enjoyed what we did do, and we will work on um, getting more games. And we asked also, what did you enjoy most about the virtual experience? 11 folks said listening to the authors. Hey, that's why we're here, asking the questions. And you see some of the other answers there. Student suggestions, very important. So we've been doing this for 3 years now of really gathering the statistics and showing them and sharing them with you. So in 18, hey, people wanted snacks and longer activity time. So we tried to make sure that we had activities in the virtual world. I didn't do so good with snacks, but I'm still trying to figure that out. 2019 said, hey, more variety of activities. Make sure you have the activities and the games. And in 2020, hey, the most that we received was nothing. Hey, we don't want anything else with the exception of number 2, more games, more games. So trust me, I'm having lots of gaming conversations with lots of folks around the US, and we're gonna crank that up next year for sure. Now, student surveys. We asked them, hey, do you have any ideas for virtual games? And they actually gave us a few things. This Gimmet, I know nothing of, but I will find out about that over the holiday season. So thanks, kids, for letting us know what's out there. You know, we may not know. So in summary, I think we created a very successful virtual event. We all had fun, I believe. And the kids really enjoyed interacting with the authors, even though it was virtually. So we got our virtual lessons learned, more gaming. Actually, some kids say, hey, we missed the dance party. So we have to figure out how to incorporate more of the on-ground activities, and the dance party was one thing that had become a little popular. And now that I'm thinking about music and talking about the music, we actually had music, customized music this year provided by a gentleman um, named Addison Fry. And Addison is actually from Lawrence, Kansas. So we had a Kansas guy giving us our background music for the online event. So check him out. I'll provide some more information about the DVD that we will have available for customized DVD, limited edition with Addison's music as a part of that for sale. I believe it's $25. We're going to production by the end of or middle of November, so we should have them by the end of November. So what we're going to do for next year, um, we wanted to create that $3 per person cost just to give people a break during this difficult time. Unfortunately, we'll have to go back to the $5 next year for the participation cost. Thank you again for the great recommendations from both students and adults. So we continue to listen very closely to all participant recommendations. Just an FYI, because we didn't meet in person, you weren't available, or we weren't available to provide you with some of the merchandise that you purchased. Just know that you can contact us. We still have that material available: rulers, pencils, patches, bags. We still do have, and we also still have your requested smaller spine labels that are available for librarians and teachers for your collections books, for the WA books. And I'm going to close things up here with a thank you for attending. And we're giving you a little bit.ly here. This link will allow you to go in, give us your information, and we'll send you some of the swag that went out in the swag bag. So thanks for attending. I'm going to push this over to Bev and let her begin what you've been waiting for, which is the new list. So thanks a lot. And Bev, I'm turning it over to you.
All righty. Thank you, Michelle. You just did a super job. I think I can take my headphones off now because I can take my headphones off, can't I? I'm pretty sure I can. Yeah, I'll do better without them. Thank you, Michelle. That was fabulous. Great PowerPoint, great information about such a strong program we have here in Emporia, although we've learned now that it can be virtual. As Michelle said, I know this is the part of the session that a lot of you look forward to. As I posted on the listservs this morning, the lists are available as a handout on that Google Doc that Martha has sent information out about. So if you want a print copy, you'll be able to get one. If you want to make some quick notes as I run through these titles, feel free, but I'll post them on the listservs and the handouts already on the Google Doc. Give me a second here. I'm going to share screen and get over to my PowerPoint so that you can see some of the covers of these lovely books that our committee has chosen. Let's see. Here we go. Okay. Here we are. All righty. It kind of blows my mind. And to be honest, when I was saving this document the other evening, I put 2020 to I did put 2020 to 2020. This is actually the 2021 to 2022 list. And I had saved it as this. Excuse my main slide, because this was the frame of mind I was in. So this is actually going to be a year from now, which will be 2021. And the winner from the list I'm about to show you will be chosen in 2022. I'll have to fix this before I do another talk. All right, we'll start with the grade 3 to 5 list. Letty Out Loud is our first title. This is an author from Kansas. I know a lot of people who know her have been very anxious for one of her books to be on our list, and the committee was happy to put this on the list. As you can tell from the cover, it is about a young girl. I believe she's a 7th grader, and it is set kind of in this, well, it's in the same town as Cervantes' other book, Gabby Lost and Found, because our main character, Letty, is volunteering at the same animal shelter that Gabby was at in Gabby Lost and Found. Now, Letty's first language is Spanish, and she is struggling a little bit in school. She works very hard at English, And working in the animal shelter is very helpful to her because the animals don't judge her, and she truly can speak the animals' language and vice versa. She volunteers to start writing profiles of adoptable pets. And a classmate who is also volunteering there, who happens to be a boy, sets up a competition that let's see who can sell the most pets. And this really kind of makes Letty stand up and learn to use her English and learn to stand up for herself. It's basically the story of a girl who learns the power of her own voice, which I think is where that title comes from. Our next one is a nonfiction book, Counting the Stars. This is the biography of one of NASA's computers, Katherine Johnson. She was one of the ladies that was in the movie Hidden Figures. This book does a nice job of showing us the entire life of Katherine. And that's important because she was an amazing person. She had a college scholarship by the time she was 15 years old, and that follows her through her life. She was so intelligent, even as a small child, and goes up until she is one of the computers that played a role in John Glenn's 1962 orbit of the Earth. And any additional information about Katherine Johnson is filled in the author's note. Shine by Chris Gravenstein and his wife is our next book. This one is realistic fiction. This is about a 7th grade girl named Piper, and her father takes a job at a private school. She has been, up to this point, she's a 7th grader, she's gone to public schools. All of a sudden, she's in a private school because she can get free admission with her dad working there. At first, she is targeted by the mean girls, but she discovers she's very good at science, and she discovers her niche when she wins in a science fair. But what she doesn't realize is she doesn't know that adults in the school are watching her. Her real niche, where she really shines, is just being kind to people when she thinks nobody is watching. So that is what actually brings her the accolades and lets her shine. Very heartwarming story. Our next one on the 3 to 5 list is Bernice Buttman, Model Citizen. Some of you are old enough to remember the Herdmans. I would suggest that Bernice is probably related to them, and she will certainly remind you of them early in the book. The book starts out in Kansas City, and Bernice is a Buttman. She honestly is not a very nice little girl. She lashes out at anyone who comes near her. She's not pleasant to be around. Whenever she has a friend, she manages to get rid of them before the day is over because of her behavior. The one place she is comfortable is in the public library. That is taken away from her when her mother sends her to live with her aunt. So she doesn't have the public library, but what she has is a convent that's in Texas because her aunt is a nun. Bernice very wisely realizes this is her opportunity to become a model citizen, to behave a little differently. And by the end of the book, and of course she has, not everything's perfect, but by the end of the book, she has learned to ride a horse and has even become a stunt rider, which has been one of her goals. She has made a friend or two, and she's even able to help the sisters at the convent. And it's a book that's funny, it's heartwarming. I think boys and girls will like it. Next is another fiction book. This is another realistic fiction book, Because of the Rabbit by Cynthia Lord. This is about a little girl whose daddy is a gamekeeper. And one day when he's out on his job, they discover, and she's with him, they discover a little bunny, and her dad lets her keep it. This bunny helps her navigate her first year in public school. I believe she's also, I can't remember how old she is, sorry. Oh, she's a 5th grader. Yeah, I was thinking she was younger. She's a 5th grader, and she's in public school now. So this little bunny is someone to go home to, someone to think about, someone to care for, someone to share details with. In fact, this is how she makes a friend. She is paired with a little boy who is autistic and for a project, and they become unlikely friends. And it's really because of the rabbit. A lot of the things that happen to Emma are because of the rabbit. And she learns a lot of patience. She learns how to be a friend. And in the end, this is Cynthia Lord. She shares information about how she came to write this book. A Wolf Called Wander. This will be very much loved by kids who like books like Pax and other survival stories with animals as the main characters. The main character of A Wolf Called Wander is Swift, and he is a wolf cub. He is learning how to hunt and all the other things that a mother wolf will teach her, and the father also will teach their child. And he's also discovering that it's awfully fun to play with his siblings. But one day, their pack is scattered by a rival pack. So Swift is left alone. He travels, by the end of the book, about 1,000 miles across the Pacific Northwest in search of a new home. And this is like a lot of the books that we read with these animals that are separated from family. He occasionally will smell a family member and your heart lifts, and it just keeps you on the edge of your seat. You also find out that this book is based on a true story of a wolf that was called Wolf 07. And there's an author's note all about it. So this is a book, once again, I think boys or girls will enjoy. This one's the same way. Wildfire by Rodman Philbrick is another realistic fiction book. The main character is Sam. He's 12 years old. He is at a summer camp when a fire breaks out. He is in a bus of everybody's going to be leaving the camp when he realizes he left his phone back in the cabin. And so he runs back to get it and then is unable to return to the bus because the fire is preventing him from getting there. As you can tell from the cover, he eventually meets another person. He meets this girl who is also trying to get away from the fire. Now, the boy already has survival skills. His father died in Afghanistan, but before he was over there, he had taught and shared with the boy a lot of survival skills, not a lot of literal ones, but also a lot of things like courage and fortitude and that sort of thing. Improvising. Sam is very good at what he does, but the girl working together, these two are really able to fight their way out. Sam also has another reason for wanting to get out of this fire and get safely home. His mother, he knows, this whole time he's been worried about her. She's in rehab for opioid addiction. So and actually they both have reasons for wanting to get out. This story is set in Maine, but obviously it is a very timely book and kids will get it regardless of where they're living. There's also good information at the end of the book about fire safety and survival, that sort of thing. The next one is another realistic fiction. I thought this would be a graphic novel when I read it. It's not. It's a very good little story. It's a 12-year-old girl named Ellie. And Ellie has been in a wheelchair during her whole life because of cerebral palsy. She and her mother, she's been in a great school. Things have been going real well. But then her grandfather down in Eufaula, Oklahoma, living in a trailer, needs help. So she and the mom go to help the grandpa and they move in with him. So Ellie must now attend a school that honestly is not equipped to deal with a student like her. What I like about the book, it focuses on Ellie herself. Ellie has a lot of skills. She has a lot of hobbies. She loves to cook and bake, and she is able to make friends. And so that's part of the story too, the making of friends and being the new kid, not necessarily the new kid in a wheelchair, but then just the new kid. And so the reader is able to walk with her as she goes through this. What makes this book interesting, some of the chapters, some of the content are letters that Ellie has written to famous chefs asking advice or telling them what she's doing and that sort of thing. Also, this is a first book by Jamie Sumner, and in the author's note, you discover that her son has cerebral palsy. Our last book, I believe we only have 9 this year for grades 3 to 5, is another realistic fiction. I should say that the committee is free to choose any genre. And it's just funny to me. Some years we have a whole lot of nonfiction. Some years we have no poetry. This year we truly have a lot of realistic fiction, and that's just the way it panned out because they read over 80 books to come up with this list. Solving for M, I listened to this on audio when I read it last summer. It was real good. Now I kind of wish I need to see the physical book because the physical book has interesting illustrations in it. but it's about a 5th grade girl named Mika. And she she discovers, and I remember this well, before the first day of school, whose class are you in? Well, she's in a different pod from her other friends. So she's starting 5th grade at a disadvantage. She also has a math teacher. At first, she's not sure about him. I really enjoyed him as a teacher. But one of the things that he assigns is a math journal. And this journal is illustrated. And so most of the chapters include things from that journal. And that journal ends up becoming a way for Mika to navigate her new school year, her new situation, but most of all, her mother's journey with melanoma. I am a melanoma survivor myself, so I loved the fact that you don't know how, there's no clean, clear ending for this. So my melanoma was when I was in my 20s. I feel good about my ending. I'm an old lady now, so all is well. But the author has written this in such a way that you trust that, yeah, we don't know the prognosis for the mom. Here I'm giving you part of the end. But I think that's important to say, that I think kids will not be upset that you don't find out everything in the end of the book because it's well written enough. The other thing as a teacher that I liked, there are a lot of little tidbits of pre-algebra in this book. So kids are going to learn, they're going to learn many things actually as they read this book, including a little pre-algebra. Very likable character. All right, now for our grades 6 to 8, I believe there's 10 books on this list. The first book, I bet a lot of you have read this one already. The next, or have kids reading it, The Next Great Polly Fink. This book, as you can tell from the cover, has a wide variety of characters. Some of them do not talk. The ones that do talk are helping to tell the story. So this book does have multiple narrators, but I would say if there's a main character, it would probably be Caitlin. These kids are all in 7th grade at a very unusual school. I believe there's only 11 kids in her grade. And they do all kinds of things during the school day, including helping with goats. They study things like philosophy. If the kindergarten little kids need some help, they jump in and help them. It's a very different setup for school than Caitlin's ever experienced. And an overwhelming topic when school first picks up is, what happened to Polly Fink? At first, I personally thought he had literally disappeared. He literally is not enrolled in the school, but they're all talking about him. And she starts learning, and of course she gets all these different perspectives about Polly Fink. Was he a class clown? Was he a wonderful child? Who was he really? And it's up to the reader to decide. But toward the end of the book, her classmates decide they need the next great Polly Fink. They need to pick the next kid that's going to entertain them and kind of be a leader for them the way Polly Fink was. And they basically assign Caitlin to find the next great Polly Fink by means of a reality show competition. So lots in this book for kids to like. And like I said, multiple narrators. Maybe He Just Likes You. I would call this book kind of a Me Too book for middle school kids. The main character is a 7th grader. We have a lot of 7th graders in our books this year too, Mila. And one day she wears a fuzzy sweater to school. And I believe it happens at the bus stop. It's seen by a lot of kids. This boy he hugs her and he wants to feel her sweater. Well, if you teach 7th grade, that touchy-feely situation can become difficult. And that's what happens to Mila. Because this boy hugs her, then the other boys all want to hug her. And I will say there's nothing, it's definitely sexual harassment, but she is not raped or anything. You should know that. But it's such a good book because it starts so gradually, and everyone that Mila discusses, because she doesn't feel good even with the first boy hugging her. And so everyone she asks has a different response. And obviously one of the friends does say, oh, maybe he just likes you. They're just flirting. Another friend is obviously very jealous that she's getting all this attention. Other friends say, oh, just ignore him. Well, she knows she can't do that. She hates to bother her mother with this because her mom is so busy and talking to a dad is not an option. When she does finally talk to people at school, adults at school, you can tell they are ill-equipped to deal with this situation. Finally, she enrolls in a karate class, and the karate class gives her some literal backbone, and it makes her realize how to deal with this. And she realizes how she could have dealt with this to begin with. She also realizes, now I know, and also she knows she can now help other people. And I hope that's one thing that will happen with this book, that it will help kids. It will open up discussion on this topic, very important topic in middle school, especially. Our next one, guess what? Realistic fiction. Remarkable Journey of Coyote Sunrise. As you can tell from the cover, this has a female main character, and her name is indeed Coyote Sunrise. 5 years earlier, Coyote's mother and sisters were killed in a car accident. And the father took her and her brothers and sisters, and I'm sorry, the father, my video looks weird, and I hope you can still see, yeah, you can see me. Excuse me. So Coyote, after the mother and sisters died 5 years earlier, the father's way to cope with the grief was to get an old school bus and take Coyote on a cross-country trip, not really knowing where they were going, just getting away from where they had lived. They meet all sorts of interesting characters along the way. As you can tell from the cover, they also find a kitten. When Coyote learns that the park where she and her mom and sisters once buried a memory box is going to be dismantled or demolished, actually, she comes up with a plan. And of course, that involves going home. And they are a good number of miles from home. She knows the dad is not going to say, oh, sure, let's go home. Let's go back to where I was so miserable. So she comes up with a plan to get her dad to drive. And by this time, she's got a kid her own age that has joined them. And so she's able to kind of trick the dad into going to the place that she still regards as home. I would say this is a remarkable journey through grief, and it's got a very satisfying ending. Song for a Whale. This is also a realistic fiction. This is a 12-year-old girl again, and this is Iris, that's our main character. She is deaf, and she is the only deaf child in her class. She loves any kind of technology. She collects old radios. If there's any problem with technology in her school, oh, call Iris. Well, she learns via a video in her class about a whale that is deaf. He's named Blue 55, and she sets out to create a song in a frequency that he will be able to understand or be able to hear. Her grandmother, who is also deaf and has recently lost her husband, Iris's grandfather, arranges for them to take a trip from where they live in Alaska down to Houston, Texas, so that she can watch Blue 55, listen to her song. The trip is balm for them both. This is a really unique and interesting book with some good back matter in it too. Here's a fantasy fiction. This is Tristan Strong, Punches a Hole in the Sky. I hope kids are already reading this. Guess what? Tristan's a 7th grader, but this is a fantasy. At least most of the book is. The story starts in Chicago. Tristan's best friend has died, and he has left Tristan his journal. He takes the journal with him when he goes down to Alabama to stay with his grandparents. And he hasn't been there very long when the journal is stolen by a little critter named Gum Baby, who is quite a character. And the rest of the book is Tristan's attempt to get that journal back. Now, in trying to get to Gum Baby, he does punch a hole in the sky, and he goes into a different parallel world. And in that parallel world, he meets many characters that hopefully some kids will recognize. They are both from American and also Black myth and legend. And I mean, it's people like John Henry and people like that. Fascinating idea. And the sequel to this book is already out. And trust me, it comes to its own conclusion, but kids are going to want to hear more about Tristan after they read this. The next book is Planet Earth is Blue. This is another fiction book set in 1986. Some of you, maybe like I, were teaching in 1986 and remember a certain day in January. And that's part of what this book involves. The main character is 12 years old. Her name is Nova. She has been in 11 foster homes in 7 years. All of them have labeled her, I hate to say this, retarded. They think she is unable to learn, when in reality, Nova's sister has worked with her. She knows her alphabet. She can write in her own fashion. She's a very smart little girl, and she knows I can learn. She just doesn't know how to communicate this to the adults that have been in her life. When her sister runs away and Nova is placed in yet another foster home, she counts the days until that January day in 1986 when the Challenger is set to blast off, because her sister promised her they would watch it together. We know how that's going to end. This is a third person narrated, but it alternates with first person narration through the form of letters that Nova is writing to her missing sister. So in that way, we hear Nova's voice. The author also includes back matter on autism and also on the Challenger disaster. A Good Kind of Trouble. This is a realistic fiction, in fact, a very modern realistic fiction. 12-year-old main character, Shayla. Shayla avoids trouble. In the beginning of the book, you learn that she is not a rule breaker. She likes things to go smoothly. She loves track. She's starting to notice boys. She has friends, but from time to time they have problems, typical things. But then her older sister gets involved in Black Lives Matter, and following a shooting in their town, gets the family to go with the whole family goes together to a rally, and it's really not a rally, it's a protest. What am I saying? It's a protest. And so Shayla discovers that, there are good kinds of trouble. There are times when I need to get involved. Well, she starts wearing an armband, as a Black Lives Matter armband. And when her school administrator forbids the wearing of them, then Shayla has to decide how much trouble is a good kind of trouble. Her voice to me was very realistic. Here's one that is not realistic. This is a very quirky sci-fi book. And in the book, the Earth has been destroyed by nuclear war. The few survivors have been orbiting. And now the narrator and his family have been given the opportunity to travel to a distant planet to convince a very odd species who are living there that they need to accept humans. If I had more time, I was going to read you just a tiny bit of it. Some of the species, none of them are human. It's very interesting. I'm curious when kids read this, if they're going to catch the irony that's in this book, and if they're going to make the connections with the current situation with immigration and this immigration situation. Pay attention, Carter Jones, delightful realistic fiction. Carter Jones opens the door one day to find, and you can see his shoes on the cover, to find on his doorstep basically a male Mary Poppins. And he is a legacy from his grandfather. He has been sent to help the family in very much the way Mary Poppins helped her family. This family of 4 kids does need help. The dad is deployed. The mom is pulling her hair out with the 4 kids. And we find out as we read on, the brother has recently died. Each chapter begins with a cricket term because Mr. Bowles Fitzpatrick is a British gentleman, and he is teaching Carter's classmates how to play cricket. And like Mary Poppins, Mr. Bowles Patrick steadily guides this family to self-sufficiency. I just have a few minutes, and this is our last book on the grade 6 to 8 list. This is another fiction book, and I believe this is the only free verse book on the list. I could be wrong. It's been a while since I've read them. But Other Words for Home, which as you can see is an award-winning book, is written in free verse. There are 5 sections to this book. It is about a 12-year-old girl, Jude. She and her pregnant mother leave the father and the brother in Syria for the opportunity to come over to America and live with the aunt and uncle and a cousin in Cincinnati. What I liked about it, the first sections of the book give you a real background for where Jude has come from. And over in Syria, I was surprised how much they knew about American culture. However, that does not prevent the culture shock that she experiences when coming into a loud, busy American school. So she's going to have to find her place. She's going to have to find another word for home. She struggles in school, and that's amplified by the news from Syria that her brother is now in the war zone. But it's helped when she lands a role in a school play. The author's note, I thought, summed this up very nicely. She said, this is a book about children who are fleeing from a war zone, who want the same things all of us do: love, understanding, safety, and a chance for happiness. It's a miracle, folks, but I got through all 19 titles. It's almost 3:50, so our session is about to end. Just a quick reminder, as I always do, keep these lists under your hat until your readers have voted in the spring of 2021. I think voting on the current list, which we want to keep kids focused on, will probably open in January. Michelle, do you have any last remarks?
No, thank you, Bev. Well, yes, I do. Just letting everyone that in the Zoom chat, we have that link, that bit.ly link to put your information in for your gift for attending today. So thank you for coming.
Hi, ladies. This is Mary Bowler. I just wanted to make sure, are you going to share the list? Because that was part of what the email said today. I just didn't know.
Right. It's sad that it would be, it is, the list is already posted. And
Wonderful.
I will also put it out on the list, but it is already posted in the Google
Thank
Docs.
you. I just wanted to make sure everyone knew that.
They can get to it right now if they want.
Good deal. Thank you so much, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you.